With the launch of the Sony a6700, is it worth upgrading to it, or should you save a bit of money and pick up an older a6000 camera at a discount instead? Let's find out. Now, as a 7-year Sony user, I can confidently say, if photos is at least 70% of your work, then you don't need to upgrade. It's the same 11 frames per second burst, and there's only a slight megapixel bump from 24.2 to 26 megapixels. Sure, the color science is much more improved on the a6700, but if you shoot RAW, then it really doesn't matter. I'm still using the now 13-year-old Sony RX1, and the photo quality is just as amazing. Even the OG a6000 will yield very similar results.
Good glass.
Now, my advice has always been just to buy better lenses. Better lenses will always breathe new life into your older cameras, and you will feel better about your results. And there's no better time to be an APS-C user. Within the last several years, there's been so many new high-quality APS-C lenses that came out. Lots of great f2.8 zooms, loads of f1.4 lenses, readily available to give you that bokeh-licious results. But if you are curious as to what's beyond that greener grass field, then let's break down all the quality of life improvements that the a6700 will bring.
Autofocus.
There have been improvements to the autofocus. It's going to be way better than the a6000, and it's going to feel miles ahead of the a6600. It's so much stickier now, and oftentimes it can be too sticky. We're coming from 425 to now 759 phase detection autofocus points. And what that means is that it's better at staying glued to your subject even when they fall way off to the edge of the screen.
Autofocus is a lot smarter now.
Ooh, AI. We now have AI human pose estimation. So even if the person is turned completely around, the camera can kind of guess where their eyes are. So when they turn back to the frontal position, there's a higher chance of accuracy nailing eye autofocus. It also does a really good job keeping skin tones properly exposed, especially if you shoot in mixed lighting conditions. Oftentimes, older cameras will prioritize the overall exposure, so skin tones can be slightly blown out, but the AI in this will keep that from happening. And what I think is the bigger quality of life improvement is the additional AI autofocus subject recognitions that can now detect animals, birds, cars, trains, planes, and even bugs. So if you're already shooting these subjects, these new recognitions will aid you better. But if you don't, then it's options that you can explore. I never considered myself an animal or bird photographer, but the amount of animal and bird photos have dramatically increased for me just because these cameras now have animal eye autofocus. It's been making travel photography a lot more fun for me.
Bigger battery.
Both the a66 and a6700 uses bigger battery, and here we can honestly go both ways, right? On one hand, longer shoot time, but because it uses a larger battery now, the grip size is bigger, and some people might prefer that. But if you love mirrorless cameras for them being small, then you might not like the bigger grip size.
User interface.
The UI performance is much better on the a6700. It is less laggy. The menu is better sorted out, it's much cleaner, and is fully touch supported. Everything on the menu is interactable by finger, which brings forth a more accessible way to shoot. Auto mode is way better now. You can access the My Image Style function where you can control the focus, the brightness, and the colors with sliders, much like using a smartphone. You don't need to know all the technical jargon, which I think it's really nice if you are a beginner or someone who's just super casual about it.
Focus bracketing and bulb timer.
And if you're more pro, this camera now also has focus bracketing and bulb timer. So if all this sounds good to you, then yes, upgrade to the Sony a6700. So those were the photo capabilities. When we come back from our commercial break, we're gonna talk about the video capabilities and whether or not you should upgrade to the Sony a6700. But for now, a quick word from our lovely sponsor,
PPA.
As a 3-year PPA member now, PPA provides numerous benefits for professional photographers and business owners. The moment you become a member, you get up to $15,000 worth of gear insurance. And that means you get full replacement coverage with a flat $350 deductible, or you can repair your equipment with a flat $50 deductible. They also offer data loss, negligence, and malpractice protection with their indemnification trust. All of this and their amazing online educational platform for just under $29 per month. And when you're ready to become a member, you can use my link to save $25 off your membership when you sign up. Thanks for listening. Now, on with the show. Alright, so video. If you're just shooting 1080p, then you really don't need to upgrade, especially if you're shooting vertical content for TikTok or Instagram. They have a max limit of 1080p upload anyway. But if you're shooting 4K, 100% you gotta upgrade.
less rolling.
Firstly, the rolling shutter has been significantly reduced. If you ever try to whip pan your camera, you'll notice that crazy bend in your frame. That has been largely dissipated on this camera. And the in-body image stabilization is so much better versus the a66 and a6500. And I think those two improvements alone are worth the upgrade.
4K 60 and 4K 120.
And even better, if you've been waiting for 4K 60 and 4K 120 for slow motion purposes for God knows how many years now, the a6700 has it.
Higher bitrate.
Along with the higher bitrate, 10-bit 422. So if you want to shoot in great S-Log3, this camera is much better.
14 plus stops of dynamic range.
14 plus stops of dynamic range. Plus, you can import your own LUTs and preview them while you shoot, which is incredibly handy. I think this is really going to bring a lot of people to experiment with S-Log3. Even myself, I've been shifting my workflow towards S-Log3.
Colors look better.
But if you don't want a gray, the straight out of camera colors look better. The color science have been much improved, as we've mentioned at the beginning of the video, and it even has the illustrious S-Cinetone cinema color profile from their higher end Venice cameras.
Long form recording.
Now, one thing I will point out though is if you're using these cameras for long form recording, I'm talking about an hour plus long, what I found was that the a6600 lasts much longer shooting 4K 24 and 30p, and upwards of an extra 30 minutes. None of the cameras overheated, they just all juiced out their batteries. My guess is that the new processor on the a6700 draws in more power. However, if you are planning to do long-form 4K 60p recording, then I would actually suggest you to get the FX30 instead. The built-in fan on that is going to help keep the camera cool. With the a6700, we're only roughly getting about 20 minutes of 4K 60p recording before it needs to cool down. Now, I will say, if you're just using 4K 60 and 120p for slow motion purposes, you don't need to worry about overheating in general.
Flip out screen.
If you're vlogging with these cameras, the a6700 has a flip out screen. I know, I'm a little bummed too, because I actually like the flip up style from the a6600. It was awkward because we had to get this hot shoe relocator so the mic wouldn't block the screen, but there's no denying that a flip out screen is not only helpful for vlogging, but also for vertical portrait framing to create vertical videos. Plus, the a6700 now supports digital mics from Sony. In conclusion, out of all the a6000 series cameras, I believe the a6700 is giant leaps and bounds better, and the one that everyone should get. It may seem like an overkill, but it'll easily last 5+ years for all the tech that it packs. If you're just shooting photos, then yes, you can get away with an older model. But video, there's just too much to be left on the table not to go for the a6700. But if you want to save a bit of money and need an APS-C camera with in-body image stabilization, get the a6600. Otherwise, the a6400 is the most well-rounded choice for the price. It does nearly everything the a6600 can do, just without the in-body image stabilization and the headphone port. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, you can simply watch another video here on the screen, like my full a6700 review, or drop a one-time super thanks donation. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.